Boxing fans are the ones that support the fighters, are the ones that pay the pay-per-views for the fighters. But also, to a certain point, they're the ones that have been ruining boxing for years. Now, before we get into this video, like and subscribe. It would be greatly appreciated. The art of ducking, where a fighter clearly avoids another fighter because he believes he cannot defeat that fighter. Most notably, the fighter that ducked another fighter back in the 1990s was the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, Riddick Big Daddy Bowe. Riddick Bowe, a 1988 silver medalist in the Olympics. He was a silver medalist because he lost to Lennox Lewis in the finals. Lennox Lewis stopped him round 2 of that fight. Lennox Lewis was the gold medalist of the super heavyweight division in the Olympics, and Riddick Bowe was the silver medalist. Riddick Bowe was a fantastic fighter. He was 6'5", with a 81-inch reach. Very big fighter, especially for 1990 standards. He was born on August 10, 1967. Turned pro on March 6 of 1989. He captured the heavyweight title when he defeated Evander Holyfield, at the time undisputed heavyweight champion, in November 13 of 1992. He won by unanimous decision. 2 scorecards read, 117-110. 1 scorecard read, 115-112. Going into the fight, Riddick Bowe had a record of 31 wins, no losses, 27 by knockout. Evander Holyfield had, 28 wins, no losses, 22 wins coming by way of knockout. Riddick Bowe had a mandatory challenger named, if you guessed it, Lennox Lewis. So he immediately relinquished his title following his victory over Evander Holyfield, relinquished the WBC title. And after that, he beat Michalczewski by first round TKO. Following that victory, he relinquished and vacated his IBF title. So by the time he fought Evander Holyfield for a rematch, he was only the WBA champion, a lineal champion as well, of course, but only the WBA champion. He lost by majority decision. It was the famous fight where a fan parachuted into the ring. He then regained a version of the heavyweight title. At the time, it was not recognized as a heavyweight title, though. He beat Herbie Hite for the WBO title. And even on the HBO telecast, Jim Lampley says that this fight is not for the World Heavyweight Championship. Because at the time, no one recognized the WBO as a championship. It was recognized kind of like how the IBO is viewed today. He beat Herbie Hite. He defended the WBO title once against Jorge Luis Gonzalez, then vacated it, and he beat Evander Holyfield in their trilogy fight via 8th round TKO. He got dropped in the 8th round. He got up, caught Evander Holyfield come again. Down goes Holyfield. Holyfield gets up to get dropped again. And that was Riddick Bowe's career. He had 2 fights with Andrew Galata. Then he retired after that without facing Lennox Lewis. And that will always define Riddick Bowe's career. Even though he had 2 great victories over Holyfield, decent victories over Michalczewski and Herbie Hite, but his career will always be defined as the man who ducked Lennox Lewis. And just like how when Riddick Bowe held the WBO title, it was not recognized, another man named of Darius Michalczewski also won the WBO light heavyweight title on September 10, 1994. And he was also not recognized as a champion at the time. He defended his title 9 times, then went into a unification match against lineal and WBA and IBF light heavyweight champion Virgil Hill. He dominated Virgil Hill and won a lopsided unanimous decision. and then was stripped from his title, from the WA and IBF titles immediately after. And he was supposed to fight Roy Jones Jr., but he never did. Not once did him and Roy Jones Jr. face. And the entire time, Roy Jones Jr. was champion at light heavyweight. He did not face Michalczewski. Roy Jones Jr. was known for being an unstoppable force. This was a fighter that he never managed to face. Now there are some revisionist history that say, oh, they just couldn't get it on. Roy Jones Jr. was a big A-side fighter in the 1990s and early 2000s because Michalczewski was the lineal champion up until October 18th of 2003 until he lost it to Julio Cesar Gonzalez. So he was the lineal champion from June 13, 1997 until October 18, 2003. That runs almost exclusively with the entire time Roy Jones Jr. was light heavyweight champion. Because Roy Jones Jr., we all know he's a 5-weight champion. But let's look exactly when he did capture the light heavyweight championship. Because we're talking about light heavyweight right now. We're not talking about middleweight, cruiserweight, none of that. He became light heavyweight champion on August 7, 1997 when he beat Montel Griffin. Michalczewski became the lineal champion June 13, 1997, so 2 months prior to Roy Jones capturing the WBC title. Roy Jones did unify with each and every one of the champions, but he never fought the lineal champion ever. So Roy Jones Jr. had the WBA, WBC, and IBF titles, but he was never the lineal champion. He was awarded the lineal championship. The ring championship, not the lineal, excuse me, in February 2 of 2002. Damn, he was never the lineal champion. Then he lost his titles on May 15 of 2004 by vicious KO in round 2 against Antonio Tarver. So that's another example of a fighter ducking a fighter. Another fighter who was severely ducked was Guillermo Rigondeaux. Guillermo Rigondeaux, we all know him, the Cuban southpaw, amateur Olympian, great fighter. He's 41 years old now. People now view him as a weak fighter, as not that good of a fighter. But at one point he was ducked by everyone. No one was interested in fighting him. Even right here, I just searched up the word fighters who ducked Rigondeaux. Right here on Bleacher Report, they literally did an article by James Garner on April 8, 2014, why Carl Frampton should not fight Guillermo Rigondeaux yet. So they're literally giving excuses for Carl Frampton not to fight Rigondeaux. At that time, no one wanted a piece of Rigondeaux. The only fighter who fought Rigondeaux was, at that time, was Nonito Donaire. Nonito Donaire, we all know him. He fights anyone, anywhere, anytime. And he got schooled by Rigondeaux, even though he dropped Rigondeaux twice late. Because Nonito Donaire, one of the hardest punchers ever in the lighter weight classes, he lost every round. Part of the 2 knockdown rounds. Let me see the exact judges' scorecards. Oh no, Rigondeaux was only dropped around 10. Yeah, I thought he won every other round other than round 10. But it was a big knockdown. I thought I dropped him twice. I guess memory fails me now. He won every round. He schooled Nonito Donaire. I had him 118-109 in that fight. He absolutely schooled Nonito Donaire. We saw the same Nonito Donaire that anyway struggled against. The same Nonito Donaire that recaptured the super bantamweight title. The bantamweight title. The same Nonito Donaire who walked through Nordin Ubali, an undefeated, very talented fighter. Dropped him twice in round 3 and then knocked him out in round 4. He's fighting on December 11th, so if anyone wants to watch, Nonito Donaire. But Rigondeaux was ducked by Scott Quick, Leo Santa Cruz, and Carl Frampton. And people let those fighters get away with it because they said he was boring. Now, people give the same green light to Errol Spence to duck Crawford just because Crawford was signed with Top Rank. Now Crawford is a free agent. And Errol Spence said some ludicrous things that he should get 80-20 split over Crawford, all that stuff. If you really want to make a fight, Anthony Joshua, before fighting Usyk, he was supposed to fight Tyson Fury. He said right away, because Anthony Joshua sells way more than Tyson Fury. We all know that. Tyson Fury knows that. But Anthony Joshua immediately said we can do a 50-50. No negotiations needed. We'll do a 50-50 because he did not want to duck Tyson Fury. That's an example of what fighters don't want to get fights done do. No, well, he didn't. Anthony Joshua himself, when it came to Deontay Wilder, especially the first time around, they both ducked each other, in my opinion. The first time around, he refused. He said if Deontay Wilder could get me a $45 million offer, I would sign immediately. And Deontay Wilder did give him a $45 million offer, and he refused. And then he offered Deontay Wilder $100 million for a 3-fight contract on DAZN. Deontay Wilder refused, so I think they ducked each other. But Rigondeaux was very avoided. Errol Spence avoided Terence Crawford, and his fans let him go with it. And the other day, after Canelo Alvarez defeated Billy Joe Sanders, and Demetrius Andrade went in to confront Canelo Alvarez to call him up for a fight, the same Canelo Alvarez who said that he cares about Undisputed, he went for Undisputed at super middleweight. Well, he could have went Undisputed at middleweight, but the last title was with Demetrius Andrade, so Canelo did not go for Undisputed at middleweight. He wanted to go for super middleweight. And when Demetrius Andrade called out Canelo literally called him a boring fighter and told him to leave and was cussing at him and using profanity. And fans loved it. Fans weren't saying, you know what, we want to see that fight. No, they gave him an excuse. You're right, Demetrius Andrade is boring. The fans ran with that excuse. And I'll never get at why fans let fighters duck other fighters. I don't get it. I never get it. I don't get how people could love a certain fighter more than the sport itself. I'll never get that one either. Let me know what you guys in the comments below. Which other fighter recently in history ducked another fighter clearly? Adonis Stevenson, Sergey Kovalev. Who do you think? Who do you want to put the finger at? And you know what? That guy was a big duck. Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And Sadiq Boxing out.